So what if I told you that like 75% of the diseases you think you've inherited from your parents actually have absolutely nothing to do with the DNA you were born with?
I mean, it sounds wild, but it's true. You aren't really inheriting their genes, you're inheriting their habits.
Right. Because we tend to look in the mirror, see a family history of heart disease or diabetes or, stubborn weight gain, and just think, well, I'm doomed. It's hardwired.
Exactly. We treat our bodies like this finished piece of architecture that's completely unchangeable.
But today's deep dive is going to completely dismantle that idea.
Yeah, we so often view our DNA as a life sentence written in permanent marker, but modern biology shows us something far more dynamic.
So today is really for anyone who has ever felt trapped by their family medical history or frustrated by their own biology. We want to hand you back the control.
And we're pulling a lot of this from an incredibly illuminating conversation with Stanford epigenetic scientist Dr. Lucia Aronica. She recently outlined all this on The Mel Robbins Show.
All right, so our mission today is to change how you look at every single meal. We want to transform food from just mere fuel into the actual biological instructions that rewrite your genetic code.
And to do that, well, we have to start with the single biggest paradigm shift. Your genes are written in pencil, not pen.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly does that mean?
So to ground it in the science, we have to look at the 7-5-25 rule.
The 7-5-25 rule.
Yeah. Decades of research have confirmed that your genes, like the actual biological blueprints for the proteins that build your body, they only dictate about 25% of your overall health story.
Wait, only 25%? That's so low.
Right. The other 75% is entirely controlled by your lifestyle.
I was looking at the mechanism for this, and it just blew my mind that these aren't abstract ideas. There are actual physical entities sitting on our genes.
Yes, exactly. They're called writer and eraser enzymes, and they're literally sitting on top of your genes, modifying how they are read.
That is wild.
That's the core of epigenetics. The prefix epi means on top of. So think of your DNA as this massive, unchangeable instruction manual. You can't rip pages out of the book.
Okay, so the book is set.
Right. But you have these writer and eraser enzymes that act like highlighters and black redaction markers. Every choice you make, what you eat, how much you sleep, your stress levels, it all sends direct signals to these enzymes.
Oh, I see. So they highlight a protective gene so your body reads it more often.
Exactly. Or they take a black marker and redact an inflammatory gene, so your body just skips right over it.
You are actively editing your own genetic expression every single day.
The data on this is undeniable. I mean, take that landmark 2016 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine.
Oh, yeah, the one with 55,000 people.
Yes. They tracked 55,000 people over time, and they found that individuals with a very high genetic risk for heart disease like bad genetics, but who maintained a healthy lifestyle, they literally cut their genetic risk in half.
Just by eating whole foods, not smoking, moving regularly. That is a staggering statistic.
It really is.
To look at a genetic predisposition for a massive cardiovascular event and realize you can physically dial down that risk by 50% just through daily habits, it completely changes how we view chronic disease.
And, the inverse was equally true.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the people in the study who won the genetic lottery who had fantastic protective genes but lived terrible lifestyles, they developed heart disease anyway. You hold the pencil, you hold the eraser.
Okay, but if we hold the eraser, you have to explain the yo-yo diet to me.
Oh, the yo-yo diet, yeah.
Right, because if we have so much control, 75% control, why does the body fight back so viciously when someone tries to lose weight? Why is it so incredibly hard for yo-yo dieters to keep weight off once they lose it?
The answer lies in this phenomenon called epigenetic memory.
Epigenetic memory, what is that?
So when you gain weight, your fat cells undergo a physical shift in their gene expression. The enzymes take that black marker and redact your lipolysis genes.
Which are the ones responsible for burning fat?
Exactly. And at the same time, they highlight inflammatory genes. So when you force yourself through a diet and shrink those fat cells, the epigenetic markers don't just magically disappear.
Oh, wow. So the cells literally remember being larger.
Yes. Their genetic instructions are still stuck in that fat and inflamed setting, so they fight to return to that previous metabolic state. That's why the weight rushes back so quickly.
Gosh, that is deeply validating for anyone listening who blames themselves for failing a diet. I mean, it's not a moral failing or a lack of willpower.
Not at all. Your cells are actively running an outdated inflammatory set of instructions.
But we can overwrite that memory, right?
We can. Stanford research demonstrates that if you can lose the weight and maintain that new baseline for 6 straight months, your fat cells are forced to unlearn the old state.
6 months. Wow.
Yeah, the eraser enzymes finally come in, they remove those inflammatory markers, and establish a new, healthy baseline.
But, I mean, 6 months is a daunting timeline.
Yeah.
Most people can barely white-knuckle their way through a restrictive diet for 6 days without feeling miserable.
Which is exactly why white-knuckling guarantees failure. Dr. Aronica champions the Italian approach to eating.
The Italian approach.
Yeah, basically, pleasure is not the enemy of health. Pleasure is the actual compass to find it. You cannot sustain a state of biological deprivation for 6 months.
That makes so much sense.
You really have to find whole, healthy foods that you genuinely love to eat. Whether that's swapping processed snacks for a beautifully seared piece of salmon or, trading a sugary dessert for fresh berries with cream.
Right, because if the process is devoid of pleasure, your nervous system remains stressed.
Exactly. And your cells will never get the 6 months of safety they need to rewrite that epigenetic memory.
Pleasure is the compass. I really love that. Okay, so if we are the ones holding the markers and we're annotating our own genetic instruction manual, we need the actual physical materials to do the highlighting and redacting.
Right. Think about the queen bee and the worker bees.
Oh, the bees.
Oh.
This is fascinating.
A queen bee lives 20 times longer than a worker bee. She's fertile, she's physically much larger. Yet, genetically, the queen and the worker bees are clones.
Wait, they share the exact same DNA?
The exact same DNA. They have the exact same instruction manual, but the completely different life outcomes.
So what's the difference?
The difference is entirely epigenetic. The larvae that are chosen to become queens are fed this exclusive substance called royal jelly.
Royal jelly, right.
And that jelly provides a massive influx of nutrients that triggers the enzymes to highlight all the queen genes.
Oh, wow.
And humans have our own version of royal jelly. We call them epi-nutrients.
Okay, so following our analogy, if epigenetics are the highlighters and redaction markers modifying our DNA, these epi-nutrients are the actual physical ink inside the markers.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Because it doesn't matter how badly you want to redact a disease gene, if you are entirely out of ink, the enzyme just can't do its job.
Right, and the primary category of this ink is a group of compounds called methyl donors.
Methyl donors. Okay, let's break that down.
In organic chemistry, a methyl group is just a carbon atom attached to 3 hydrogen atoms. When you consume these specific nutrients, your body physically glues these chemical tags over an inflammatory gene.
So it tightens the coil of DNA so it can't be read.
Exactly. And the most critical methyl donors are methionine, which you get from protein, folate from dark leafy greens, B12 from animal foods, betaine from beets and spinach, and arguably the most important one, choline.
Choline is so fascinating because the research indicates up to 90% of people are deficient in it.
90%?
Yeah, and most had never even heard of it.
It's crazy because the biological demand for choline is massive. It creates the cell membranes for every cell in your body, it packages fat to transport it out of your liver, and it provides the methyl ink for your brain.
Didn't Dr. Randy Jirtle do a study on this?
Yes, he's a pioneer in epigenetic research. He conducted this profound study on pregnancy and choline. He found that when pregnant women consumed 930 milligrams of choline daily...
Which is what, more than double the standard recommendation?
Oh. Yeah, the standard is only 450 milligrams, but when they doubled it, their children had significantly higher cognitive abilities and lower anxiety levels.
And that wasn't just measured in infancy, right?
Yeah.
The protective effects lasted for years.
They tracked the children 7 years later. Because the mothers had an abundance of this epigenetic ink, the enzymes were able to properly methylate and regulate the baby's cortisol response genes in utero.
So the children were physically wired to be more resilient to stress. That is incredible.
It really is.
But wait, to get that baseline of 450 milligrams of choline, the sources point out that you need the equivalent of about 4 eggs a day.
Yes, roughly 4 eggs.
4 eggs a day. Isn't that going to skyrocket our cholesterol? I mean, everything we learned in the diet culture of the 1990s says that's a cardiovascular event waiting to happen.
Right, I hear that all the time. But the idea that dietary cholesterol directly spikes blood cholesterol is just a persistent misunderstanding of human biology.
Really? How so?
Your liver actually produces about 80% of the circulating cholesterol in your blood. It operates on a feedback loop, kind of like a thermostat in your house.
Okay.
If you consume more cholesterol through foods like eggs, your liver detects it and simply dials back its own production to maintain homeostasis.
Oh. So for the vast majority of people, the liver just balances the equation.
Exactly. Now, about 25% of the population are what clinical researchers call high responders, where dietary cholesterol does significantly impact their blood levels.
Right.
But for the other 75%, it is not the primary driver of heart disease. Only about a quarter of people are high responders.
Okay, that makes sense.
In fact, Stanford research showed that when participants increased their intake of saturated fat and dietary cholesterol within the context of a whole food, low sugar diet, their overall blood lipid profiles actually improved.
Wow. So the danger was never the egg yolk.
No, the danger was the refined carbohydrates and sugars consumed alongside it.
So for the listeners who either fall into that 25% of high responders or who maybe eat a plant-based diet, how do they stock up on this choline Inc?
Well, just 1 ounce of beef liver provides a massive dose, though I know that's a culinary hurdle for many people.
Yeah, liver's a tough sell.
Salmon is also a fantastic source. And for plant-based listeners, a very practical trick is using sunflower or soy lecithin powder.
Oh, really? Just a powder?
Yeah, just 4 tablespoons mixed into a smoothie provides the exact form of choline your body needs. It totally bridges the gap left by avoiding animal products.
That's a great tip.
Oh.
Okay, so we have a surplus of choline ink. We have the redaction markers ready to go. But having ink in the marker doesn't mean the body knows which pages of the instruction manual to edit.
Exactly.
Something has to physically instruct the enzymes on where to go. So how does the body know what to write?
Right, the ink provides the structure, but the second category of epi-nutrients provides the actual targeting instructions.
And what are those called?
These are called epi-bioactives, and you find them primarily in the colorful pigments of your food, the physical rainbow of produce.
We hear eat the rainbow all the time, usually framed around basic antioxidants. But this sounds far more sophisticated than just neutralizing a few free radicals.
Radically more sophisticated.
Right.
Let's look at broccoli, which contains a compound called sulforaphane.
Okay, sulforaphane.
Sulforaphane doesn't just passively float around absorbing damage. It acts as an epigenetic signaling molecule. It travels into the nucleus of your cells and flips a master genetic switch called NRF2.
What does NRF2 do?
When it's activated, it turns on over 200 different protective antioxidant genes simultaneously.
Oh, wow. 200 genes.
Yeah. And unlike taking, say, an isolated vitamin C supplement, which your body just clears out in a few hours, sulforaphane keeps those 200 protective genes switched on for up to 3 days.
3 days. That's amazing. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Aronica uses this brilliant analogy of a glow stick to explain how we actually get this sulforaphane.
Yes, the glow stick. It's because the sulforaphane isn't just sitting freely in the broccoli waiting to be absorbed.
Right. So if you look at a glow stick, it contains 2 separate chemicals in distinct chambers. It doesn't glow until you physically snap the stick, break the barrier, and allow the chemicals to mix.
And broccoli works on the exact same mechanical principle. It contains a precursor compound called glucoraphanin, isolated in one part of the plant cell, and an enzyme called myrosinase stored in the cell wall.
So you have to physically break the cell wall.
Exactly. By chewing, chopping, or blending the raw broccoli, you allow those 2 compounds to mix. And when they react, they synthesize the sulforaphane.
Which completely exposes the fatal flaw of frozen broccoli.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the commercial freezing process requires blanching the vegetables in boiling water first. And that rapid heat permanently kills the myrosinase enzyme.
It leaves you with a chemically broken glow stick. You can eat plates of frozen broccoli, and sure, you'll get some basic fiber and minerals, but you are completely missing out on the epigenetic signal because the reaction just can't happen.
So that bag of frozen broccoli is basically an empty biological promise.
Pretty much.
But wait, if someone's listening right now and realizes their freezer is full of dead broccoli, how do they rescue it?
Well, there are 3 scientifically proven tricks to manipulate this reaction. First, if you're cooking fresh broccoli, chop it into small pieces and leave it on the cutting board for 40 minutes before applying any heat.
40 minutes. Why so long?
That 40-minute window gives the enzyme enough time to fully convert the compounds into sulforaphane. And sulforaphane is heat stable, so it will survive the cooking process.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second trick?
Second, if you are forced to use frozen or pre-cooked broccoli, you can resurrect it by adding a teaspoon of mustard powder after it's cooked.
Wait, really? A $3 bottle of mustard powder is literally a biochemical hack to reboot the software in your frozen veggies.
Precisely. Because mustard seed is in the same cruciferous vegetable family. The dried powder contains a potent live form of the myrosinase enzyme.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So sprinkling it over your cooked broccoli replaces the enzyme that the factory destroyed, and the chemical reaction happens right there in your stomach.
That is so cool. And the third option?
The third option for maximum epigenetic impact is growing broccoli sprouts. Sprouts contain up to 100 times the amount of precursor compounds compared to mature broccoli crowns.
100 times.
Yeah, just 1 ounce of sprouts delivers the biological equivalent of eating 3 pounds of full-grown broccoli.
This changes everything about meal prep. The idea that how you physically handle the plant completely alters its ability to rewrite your DNA is just wild.
It really highlights how interactive our food is.
And this requirement for specific preparation applies to other colors of the rainbow too, right? Like tomatoes.
Oh, definitely. Tomatoes provide our red signals in the form of lycopene.
Lycopene, right.
Lycopene is an incredible epibioactive. It acts as an internal sunscreen, boosting your skin's baseline protection against UV damage by 40%. And it powerfully supports cardiovascular health.
But clinical trials indicate you need about 10 milligrams of lycopene to trigger these biological benefits, right?
Exactly. 10 milligrams.
Which means if you're trying to get 10 milligrams by eating a raw tomato salad, you'd have to eat roughly 20 pounds of raw tomatoes a day.
Which is obviously physically impossible. But we can use heat and fat to our advantage here.
How so?
The lycopene is tightly bound within the rigid cell walls of the raw tomato. Cooking the tomatoes down breaks those walls open. Furthermore, lycopene is fat-soluble.
Meaning it needs fat to be absorbed.
Exactly. It requires lipids to travel across your intestinal wall and into your bloodstream. By cooking the tomatoes down into a paste with high-quality olive oil, the fat acts as a biological carrier. This simple culinary tradition boosts the bioavailability of the lycopene by a massive 70%. Just 3 tablespoons of that cooked tomato paste delivers the exact same epigenetic benefit as eating 20 pounds of raw tomatoes.
So what does this all mean for the person eating a raw tomato and garlic salad? They might think they are being incredibly healthy, but they're leaving all the epigenetic superpowers locked inside the plant.
They're getting the calories, but they are dropping the biological call. They aren't sending the signal.
And you mentioned garlic in that salad. Does garlic work the same way?
Very similar, yeah. Garlic contains a powerful compound called allicin, which regulates cholesterol and enhances immune function. But just like broccoli, allicin requires an enzymatic reaction.
So you can't just slice it and toss it in a pan.
No, you cannot just slice garlic and immediately throw it into hot oil. You have to crush the clove, smash it flat with the flat of a knife to break the cell walls.
Okay.
And then you must wait a minimum of 5 minutes. That resting period is when the allicin is actively synthesized. Only then can you cook it.
Okay, we also have to talk about chocolate quickly, because the source material highlights it as a legitimate epigenetic medicine, provided it isn't chemically destroyed first.
Yes, chocolate. The raw cacao bean is packed with flavonols. These are epigenetic signals that offer profound metabolic and cognitive benefits.
But the issue is the industrial processing.
Right. Exactly. Most commercial chocolate undergoes Dutch processing, where the cacao is washed with an alkaline solution to reduce bitterness and darken the color.
And that destroys the good stuff.
That single chemical wash destroys up to 90% of the beneficial flavonols. To actually send the epigenetic signal to your brain and metabolism, you need raw cacao powder or minimally processed, lightly roasted cacao beans.
Got it. Okay, so we've maximized our plant signals. We have our choline ink. But there's a huge elephant in the room when we talk about preventing cellular aging.
Yeah.
And that is chronic low-grade inflammation.
Oh, absolutely. It's the primary driver of aging.
Right. It is the fire that burns down the house. And a lot of people assume they're putting out that fire simply by eating a plant-based diet.
And this is where we run into a major biological bottleneck. Omega-3 fatty acids are the specific epigenetic signals that command your cells to turn off systemic inflammation. I like to call them the cellular fire department.
The cellular fire department. I love that.
But many people rely on plant sources, like chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts for their omega-3s. The problem is, plants provide a short-chain omega-3 called ALA.
And the human body can't use ALA to fight inflammation, right?
No. It must physically elongate that molecule into the active forms, EPA and DHA.
And the human body is notoriously terrible at doing that.
We simply lack the specific desaturase enzymes in high enough quantities to make the conversion efficiently. For a healthy young woman, the conversion rate of ALA to the active forms is roughly 5 to 8%.
Wow, that's low.
And for men, it can plummet to as low as 0.5%. And as we age or endure chronic stress, those enzymes become even more depleted.
So if the therapeutic dose used in clinical trials to actually quench cellular inflammation is around 2 grams of active EPA and DHA per day, how many walnuts does a person have to eat to hit that target?
Given that poor conversion rate, you would need to consume roughly 2 pounds of walnuts every single day.
2 pounds of walnuts.
Yeah, that's over 2,000 calories dedicated solely to walnuts. It is just a nutritional fantasy.
So what's the alternative?
To actually signal the cellular fire department, you require direct sources of preformed EPA and DHA. That means incorporating fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines, or utilizing a high-quality algae or fish oil supplement.
Okay, so that addresses the fats.
Yeah.
But we also have to look at how we are processing our food internally. The Stanford research regarding the microbiome and fiber is incredibly counterintuitive.
Oh, Dr. Justin Sonnenberg's research. Yes, it challenges a lot of basic nutritional assumptions.
Right.
His lab studied individuals with low microbiome diversity, meaning their gut lacked a wide variety of bacterial species. When researchers instructed this group to significantly increase their intake of dietary fiber, their systemic inflammatory markers actually went up.
Wait, the universal medical advice is eat more fiber. Why would a high-fiber diet trigger an inflammatory response?
Because dietary fiber is essentially indigestible roughage. Humans cannot digest it. We rely entirely on our gut bacteria to ferment and break it down.
Oh, I see.
If you lack the specific microbial workforce to process that fiber, it just creates mechanical friction and local irritation in the gut. But the researchers had a second group of people who didn't increase their fiber.
What did they do?
Instead, they increased their intake of fermented foods: yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut.
And what happened to their inflammation?
It plummeted. Their microbiome diversity exploded, and their inflammatory markers dropped significantly. Fermented foods deliver what I call the 3 musketeers of gut health.
The 3 musketeers, okay.
Yeah. They provide prebiotics, which feed the bacteria. They provide probiotics, which are the live bacteria themselves. And crucially, they provide postbiotics, specifically a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate.
And butyrate isn't just a byproduct, right? It's an epigenetic signaling molecule.
Exactly. It travels directly through your gut lining, enters your bloodstream, and travels throughout your entire body, acting as a master signal to downregulate inflammation in your organs and brain.
This perfectly explains why someone might be eating massive bowls of chia seed pudding and taking expensive fiber supplements, but still feeling terrible and inflamed.
Yes.
They're providing the roughage, but they are missing the actual rescue squad. They're completely missing the microbial workforce needed to process it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the science of epigenetics requires biological synergy. You need the animal-based foods to provide the choline ink and the bioavailable omega-3s.
Right.
And you need the plant and fermented foods to provide the precise highlighting instructions and the microbial diversity. It's this necessary, beautiful, biological friendship.
Yeah.
You need both halves of the equation to write the masterpiece.
I think that is such a beautiful way to summarize it. So to pull all of this together for the listener, you are not your family history. You are not a victim of a predetermined genetic blueprint.
Absolutely not.
You hold the pencil. Right. You control 75% of your health destiny. But to write a new story, you have to prioritize genuine pleasure to keep your nervous system out of fight or flight. You have to gather your biological ink, ensuring you get enough choline to actually methylate those inflammatory genes.
And you have to actively manipulate your plant signals, right? Smashing that garlic, cooking those tomatoes in oil, hacking your frozen broccoli with mustard powder.
Yes, exactly. And managing inflammation by putting out the cellular fire with direct EPA and DHA from fatty fish, supported by the diverse bacteria in fermented foods.
Now, if you are absorbing all this and immediately thinking about a parent or a spouse who desperately needs a biological software update, Dr. Aronica offers a profound piece of advice from the source material.
Oh, what's that?
Do not force them.
Really?
Yeah, you cannot mandate a lifestyle change for someone else. It only creates resistance. Instead, Be the invitation.
Be the invitation.
Let your own cellular transformation be the quiet revolution that makes them curious. Start your own quiet revolution at the cellular level. When you begin eating with genuine pleasure, when your energy stabilizes, when your skin clears up from that internal lycopene SPF, they will notice. Let the undeniable results of your own transformation invite them in.
Be the invitation. That is such a powerful framework. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on the mechanisms we've explored today.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Think deeply about that concept of epigenetic memory. We discussed how fat cells physically remember being overweight, and they fight to return to it until you establish a new baseline over 6 months. But consider this, what about your stress levels or your sleep deprivation?
Oh, that's a great point.
What physical baselines of exhaustion or low-level background anxiety have your cells completely accepted as normal simply because you've endured them for so long? If your cells are capable of remembering the bad, they're equally capable of remembering the good.
Absolutely.
What incredible, vibrant new baseline could you establish if you consistently signaled safety, rest, and targeted epigenetic nourishment to your cells for 6 straight months? You are not a machine running on a permanent program. Your genetic instruction manual is written in pencil. It's time to pick up the eraser and start writing.